Welcome, welcome. Jamie Hernandez here, founder of Breakthrough Yoga Coaching Method, helping you bridge a gap between your spiritual practice and your business so that you can grow emotionally and financially. So if you are here live, hashtag live, write a longer sentence. Let me know you're here, and that way will come through in real time. And if you are here for the replay, hashtag replay, because I promise I come back, and just tag me and I come back and I answer all of your questions. So today is called Entrepreneurship, a Path to Self-Discovery. Entrepreneurship, a path to self-discovery. And it's like, what better way to discover who you are, right? When you have certain gifts, certain transformation that you want to offer, certain healing, certain ways of discovering who you are at a deeper level, then to put that out there and risk the feeling, because we're all human and we're going to feel a certain way about when we expose ourselves, expose what I want, expose who I am, expose my values and what I stand for, expose my innermost truths to risk the feeling of being rejected. It's a feeling of feeling guilty for asking more than maybe we deserve, or the feeling of blame where it's like, only if I could do this, then it would be this way, right? What better way of discovering who you are than to face up front our humanity, the humanity of not wanting to be exiled from the tribe, right? So when you're putting yourself out there and you're saying, hey, this is what I do and this is how I make money, what I know, okay, so I'm not the only one, but what I know is that when you're trying to monetize your zone of genius, for so many people, it takes a while for them to get out of that sense of vulnerability, that sense of exposing themselves, that sense of like, oh my God, what are people going to think kind of thing. And really claim and own what it is you want. And so I want to just talk about like, okay, so how do we do that? How do we allow this entrepreneurial journey to be a path of self-discovery? And let me just read to you what entrepreneurship is. There's so many definitions. I kind of just randomly picked one, but this entrepreneurship, here's one definition. Entrepreneurship is the ability and the readiness to develop, organize, and run an enterprise along with many uncertainties in order to make a profit. So there's a lot of words there that you might even relate to when you've kind of been on your own spiritual journey, your own path, whatever it is you want to call it. And, the words that kind of stand out to me is the readiness. And that's the cool thing about this, path, is that it creates a readiness to be ready, a readiness to finally listen to that inner truth that only you know. Develop, right? So it's a development. So, it's like entrepreneurship is not something that bam, all of a sudden I understand how to do it. Pretty much all entrepreneurs are kind of like figuring it out on the way. They have a vision. This is the commonality between entrepreneurship on people who are in the entrepreneurial path. They have a vision. They don't know how they're going to get there. So don't make that mistake, as many people think, oh, they must have figured something out. And we have decided, that's the kind of life and business I want. So I'm going to walk towards that. I am going to stumble, or, what did my teacher say the other day? I've got to fail spectacularly along the way, but I know that's where I'm going. So I'm going to figure it out, right? So we develop. And, this word here, uncertainty, right? And we all know this in the spiritual practice, like nothing is for certain, nothing is forever. Things are always changing. So the good news is your spiritual practice is your readiness, right? And if you are having this compelling call in you, right, to monetize your zone of genius, to offer what you offer for money, in exchange for money, then this training is for you. Now, let's start with step number one. Step number one, right, that we need to kind of get clear. So if you have, again, that inner calling, that inner voice, step number one is to figure out, what do I want? What kind of life do I want? And for me, like, life and business are not separate. It's like I don't do business over there and then live my life. Like, I'm in my home. I'm this is my life as well. It's part of my life. It's not my only thing that I do, but it is part of my life. So if this is going to be part of my life, what do I want? And it's not like this question that all of a sudden you're supposed to know the answer. What do I want? What do I want? And here's how you're going to know. What you've always known. Intuition is remembering what you've always known to be true in your heart. You've always known it. You've always seen yourself. You've always felt yourself. You've always imagined yourself doing something in a particular way. Okay, so raise your hand. Let me know if you always seen something. Like one of my clients, she's like, I've always seen myself talking to a lot of people. In her business right now, she's not necessarily talking to that vision. She's not necessarily exactly doing that. But as an entrepreneur, she sees herself moving towards that. And every step she does in her business is moving towards that vision. Okay, so just because you remember yourself in a certain way and you're not doing it now, or you haven't even, it's a remembering of who you are and what you want. Okay, so let's just get that clear, because sometimes we misdiagnose, like, oh yeah, I'm not doing it, so it must be not true. But that's what intuition is. It's remembering, who you are at your core. What is it? What is your mission here on earth? And the other thing is the ability to, intuition is not just remembering the past, but it's also remembering the future differently. And I talk about this a lot, remembering your highest potential. And here is the most challenging bit, I think, on the entrepreneurial journey and the spiritual path. Okay, lean in on this one. Only you know the truth about your future. Only you know the truth about your future. Is it a crystal clear truth? You just know you're going in that direction. And that's the most challenging thing, because it's like, it's this kind of almost secret kind of vision inside of you that you see to be true about your future self. It is something that you see about your future self. And guess what? You are the only one that knows that truth. So if you were to work with me, that's what we're going to get at. But I can't give it to you. I can give you the path to get there. The accountability, right? The strategies to stick and stay in alignment with your truth, and strategies to implement that so it comes down into the 3D world and manifest here while you're alive in the human body, right? But you are the only one that knows your truth. So that's the most challenging thing. And if I were to be your coach, the biggest thing I'd want to give you is to be able to trust yourself. Yeah. Okay. Easier said than done. But as an entrepreneur, if you're going to deal with those uncertainties, and you want to create abundance, then we're going to have to learn how to trust that secret voice that nobody else hears, that vision that nobody else knows, only you do. And then you share it in a container where it's going to be received. And you share it in a container where, there's different containers where it's like some people are a little bit behind you. So you help those people, right, into the vision. Meaning to say the transformation that you offer, you bring other people along that path. They're your kind of shoulder to shoulder, friends, your buddies, the ones that you could just share who you are. And they're just going to take you in and receive you. And there are those who are a bit ahead of you where they're like, okay, come, you want to go down that path? Come, I can help you along that path. All right? So those are the containers. You don't want to necessarily share your vision with people who are not going to hold it with that same sacredness and that same truth that you know in your heart is true. Yes? Because then we're going to be kind of working with other people's insecurities and their reflections upon what it is they want or don't want. So if they haven't been working with that type of thing, then those are not the people to share with. I'm not saying like to shun them and whatever, but it's just we want, especially if it's something that we only say out loud to ourselves, or we don't even say out loud to ourselves, we want that to be welcomed and received. Okay, let me know in the comments if that makes sense. So step number one, if you want your entrepreneurial journey not just to be about the money, because this is a funny thing. Okay, well, let me get into that. Okay, what do you want in your business? And it's based on what you've always known, and it's based on what only you know to be true about your future self. Only you know to be true about your super self. That's why the spiritual practice is so important, because it always brings out that. And if it's a reoccurring theme, then you kind of also know the soul is like beckoning you. They're like, okay, here we go. Here's the vision again. Here it is. The soul is always going to be kind of like, I'm showing it to you over and over again, and here are the external signs. Okay? So it's like this deep, secret, sacred voice inside of you, right? So we want to learn how to listen. Now, here is the nuance, okay? And this is where the intellect thinks it's so smart, okay? The nuance is, if you only know what you don't want, if you only know what you don't want, like, oh, I don't want people to judge me, I don't want people to think I'm greedy, I don't want to make too much money, all that. It is not, you are not clear on what you want. Okay? And it sounds like you kind of know what you want because you don't know what you don't want. But if that's the only voice speaking, which is important, sometimes and if it's based on some kind of shame, blame, guilt, it's that kind of voice, and it's telling you what it doesn't want and what it doesn't want to feel, then it seems like it's sort of telling you what you want based on what you don't want, but it's actually not clear. Okay? It is not clear on what it wants. The clarity comes from what you've always known and what you only know about your future self. Okay? All those other voices that sound blamey, guilty, shamey, those are not even yours. Okay? It's what we call maybe that egoic self, the narcissistic self. Yeah? The collective consciousness that has seeped in that is not even true. Yeah? It's a negation, and it's like these absolutes. Okay? So let me know if that voice is really loud, if that voice is really loud in you, where you kind of just, you know what you don't want, you know how you don't want other people to think of you, you don't want to feel this way, okay? That's the voice of the ego. So just so we can discern, because the voice of the ego will always be there. The voice of the ego is what separates us, right? And so, and it keeps us sort of in this problem solving, like there's something wrong with us and we need to be fixed. Okay, the voice of the ego sounds like that. Yeah. So if the voice of the ego is loud, then it tends to kind of muffle what the voice of what I call the soul wants. Yeah. So we got step number 2. Okay, so we got step number 1, get clear on what you want. Step number 2, become aware of your own blocks. Okay, and that's what the spiritual practice is constantly doing. It's constantly showing us the untrue version of ourselves and the true version of ourselves. So become aware of your blocks. And I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask you a money question. And again, here, whose voice is hearing this? Oh my God, it's not about the money. I don't want to do things based on money. And what I said in what I wrote is, it isn't about the money, but it's also about it's also not about not making money. Does it make sense? It also means, it doesn't mean that we're not supposed to make a profit. Do you hear this? See the nuance? Okay, because I think the voice of, oh my God, I don't want this to be about money, and like is so loud that it almost then negates the fact that we actually need to make a profit if we're going to be an entrepreneur and if we're going to run a business and we're going to have a life, right, in the 3D world. So it's a tool. So I want you to be very crystal clear on when I talk about money and who is listening when I bring that word up, because there's so much energy around it in the spiritual community. There's so much energy. There's so much collective consciousness around it. There's so many voices around it, right? There's so much shame and blame and guilt around it. So because money is a representative of your survival needs, right? It's like, okay, if I don't have money, then I won't have something to eat. I won't have a roof over my head. I can't pay my mortgage. I can't pay my bills. I can't feed my kids. I can't buy my clothes, right? So it's very much tied to our survival needs. That's why we have so much energy around it. It's also very much tied to what our thriving needs. What do we need to thrive? Not just survival. What do we need to thrive? To kind of be our expansive self. You know, that secret part of us that always, it knows who we are at our core. Only that part knows who we are in our future self. Okay? And know who we're becoming. So I'm going to ask you the question so that you can see your own blocks. Okay? Now, what is the largest sum of money you've ever made in your life? Okay, just think about that number, like, the last time, that month or that day or whatever that was having a good year, like that hour, like what was the most you've ever made? You can think about it in a month. That might be easy. Okay, but if an hour or a year is easier, then go with that. Okay, so think about that number. And because our mind and our survival works based on memory, it subconsciously caps us at that highest number. Okay, if that makes sense, right? So if it was $3,000 you ever made most in your a month, then your subconscious is like, ooh, that's what keeps us alive. That's what keeps us surviving. So that's what I'm subconsciously always going to make. And I'm never going to go outside of that, because guess what? Outside of that is the unknown. And the unknown for the survival need is very scary. We don't know what's there, so we don't know if we're going to survive there. The thriving needs, no, I can thrive there. I can expand there. There's limitless possibilities, okay? And I'm not saying that you have to make more, but understand, if you are feeling like you're making barely enough, and if you're feeling like what you're doing is a job, if you're feeling, or you're not even doing it because it's too hard, or you don't feel adequate enough, or you don't have enough time, or you don't have enough experience, you don't have enough capabilities, some kind of not enoughness, then there is a subconscious cap right there. Okay, so we're going to use the representation of money to understand that. So and so think about that number. If you're perfectly happy with the number and you truly are living that point where you're like, I know who I am, I know secretly inside my future self who I am, I'm living that dream, and it feels very much in alignment. I feel nourished, I feel abundant, I feel like I have enough free time, I feel like I'm really doing what I need to do. No problemo. Keep it, right? But if you're feeling kind of like, there are so many things I would like to do, but it's there's always kind of this constraint of not having enough time or enough money or enough resources. Yeah. So think of that number. Write me in the comments if you have that number, right? So I want you to just take a moment to think of that number, that the most you've ever made in a month, and I just want you to see how it feels in your body. Okay? So just see how it feels. Write me in the comments, what does that feel like? Does it feel constricted? Does it feel like what is it? Okay? Now, I want you to take that number, and I want you just in your mind, like just imagine it in your bank account right now. And I want you to also, like usually it's like a whew, but I also want you to think of, what does it feel like if I 2x that number? So just take a moment to feel that in your body. So think of the number and 2x it. And just see how it feels. Now, take the same number. Take that same number, the one that you 2x, and 3x it. Right? So if it's 10,000, then now it's 30,000. 3x it. Take that same number, 30,000, and multiply it by 10. And just imagine that potential. Expand into there, just play in there, just play there. Some people are just even afraid to play there, even though it's like, we're just imagining. So just play there. What would it feel like? What would it be like to have that overflow of abundance? More money than you can even spend, abundance. Just, okay? And let the voices of, too much, blah, 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 not enough, blah, blah, blah. Just let that go and just give yourself permission to expand in that feeling. 300,000, so that number, right, 300,000. For you, it might be different. I just want to show you the math so that you understand what you were doing in your head. Yeah? Okay? And write me in the comments how that felt. Yes? Okay? And I want you now to discern. Think of the number, that the most money you've ever made. Just think about that. Think of how it felt in your body. And then think about this potential, just for fun, a potential of 10xing. And again, I'm not telling you that has to be your goal. I just want you to discern the difference between the two feelings. Yeah? Okay? So for me, it's like the kind of the cap number felt safe, felt. And then the 10x number was like kind of scary, like, oh, is that even possible? But like, it also felt exciting. Okay? Right? And so I want you to just kind of keep those two in mind and play with that, okay? Now, here's the difference. When I asked you what you want, deep in your soul, sometimes you want I don't know what. Like, I honestly, like, I've always known. So this is the always known. I've always known I wanted a fully renovated house. And I kind of even forgot that, but I just kind of always saw that when I was young. I kind of always wanted that. I don't know why. Maybe because my house was a bit chaotic, and it was just always, it was always this nice feeling to, and like everything was always like being broken, and so I guess, it's like this part of me that always wanted this like newly renovated, clean, spacious, peaceful home. Okay, I've always known I've wanted that. Yeah. I've always known I wanted lots of spacious time and freedom. I've always known like the work that I do is on a kind of operational level, very simple. It's just me. I know that maybe sounds egotistical, but I always saw myself like, oh, when I discovered like you can be a yoga teacher and you just have to be you, like you don't need a building, you don't need spreadsheets, you don't need special machines, you don't need services and products. Like that's what I mean, right? There's just, I love the simplicity of it. Okay, so there's something that you've always known, yeah? And the nuances, and then like, okay, so there's things that you want physically, there's things that you want in relationship. So sometimes there's the way you want relationships, and also maybe something in your health, right? And here's how you know that you're not fully willing. So here's it. There's this difference between surviving and the unwillingness to receive, and thriving, the willingness to receive that potential, right? Because if you're going for something that you in your future self, it's obviously never happened before. That's the thing we have to kind of understand. It's never happened before, right? And so when you're seeing other people, here's the nuance. When you're seeing other people have what you want, right? The vacation, the seemingly perfect relationship, the healthy body, the abundance in the bank, the free time, right? The seemingly like wholeness and balance they have in their life, and you feel some sort of resentfulness or some sort of separation, like, I want that. But it's like you're almost resentful that other person has that. Or you feel small because that other person has that. Or you feel like not enough. Or there's some kind of comparison or judgment. Then you're still in the unwillingness to receive it. And the willingness to receive it is you see it. And maybe you don't have it. But you're like, one day, that's going to be me. One day, I'm going to have that. Do you see the difference? Okay. And it's not out of greed. It's not out of, selfishness. It's just that it's like children, when they want something, they often just like, they'll just claim it. They'll just want it. And they want it simply because they want it and because they love it. And it brings them a sense of joy. Okay. So we need to discern between our unwillingness to receive and our willingness to thrive and receive. Okay? Only you know what you want, and it doesn't matter what anybody else says. Some people might judge me the fact that I want like a newly renovated home and all this stuff, and a safe place to live for my family and comfortable and all that. And that's fine. But I know what I want, right? Based on my own values. Yeah. And it was never about because of the money. It was about like this sense of peace, a sense of spaciousness, a sense of like a home where my family can just rest. Yeah. So, but the tool of money gets you that thing, right? Or that freedom, that space, it's like, when I was first starting out, I've always, like, when I would see my friends who were a little bit more further on the entrepreneurial journey, and it's like their schedule was seemed so open and so free and just really how they wanted it. I was like, wow, that's what I want, right? And no, that's what I have. But it's just like, the willingness to receive, like, oh yeah, that's what I want. And not out of jealousy, not out of, oh my God, but just like, oh, that looks really nurturing. Ooh, I like this. I like that, you know? And like, you know, if I were to think about, like, for example, my family members, you know, they would say like, oh, no, I really like the structure. I really like the fact that I get paid every 2 weeks. I like, you know, I know that I'm working from this time to that time. And then when I close the computer, I'm done, you know? And that's what they want, right? So just see the nuance between the willingness to receive and the unwillingness to receive. And again, it's based on your own truth. Okay, so it's not based on somebody else. Yeah, you might want to just live in an empty room in a little hut by the beach. I don't know, you know, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's, you know what you want. Okay, and so here's just to further the money vision, because we want to now start to understand when we're going for what we want to start to understand when it's arrived. Because often when it's arrived, like when I started with this kind of renovated home, I kind of almost forgot that that's what I wanted, because you know, there's so much time and effort and sweat and blood and moving and all this stuff just to create this home, that you kind of forget. And then you start to realize, oh my God, I've always wanted this. What? Like, and it's here. Yeah. So start to remember, right? When you envision asking for money for what you do, and know the two differences. Remember what I was talking about, the cap and the you know, the more expansive feeling. How does it feel? So nuance between the two, discern the difference. If it's that small contracted place, or it's that kind of exciting, kind of scary place, you know? And how much are you willing to receive? One of my coaches always says, I'd like to manifest more than I can spend. And who, right, are you giving the money to, and who are you receiving the money from? And the reason why I talk about now the details of these things is because sometimes when you get what you want, you don't even realize you have it. So when you have a certain kind of recognition that it's going to be feeling like this, it's going to look like this, it's going to have a certain, you know, number, you know, and who I'm giving it to, and how who's receiving it, and who am I receiving it from, then when it manifests, you're like, oh, this is it, right? So one of the biggest things that I always do is I always talk about with our clients, who is your dreamiest client, right? And when you get really crystal clear on that, when they arrive, we do what I call, like, we take them in and we celebrate and we receive them. Because if we go from that kind of not enough voice, from that surviving voice, it's going to be like, oh yeah, I got this person, but now who's the next person? And it's like, it comes from this kind of like, it's never enough. Oh my God, what if I lose this? Versus like, oh my God, you know, the person I've always wanted to work with, I get to work with them today. Yay! Like, how exciting is it? So there's an expansion into our pleasure. There's this willingness to receive, and there's this anchoring down of like, oh yeah, this is it. Because if we don't kind of decide these things now, we're going to get to the finish line, and guess what's going to happen when we're in the finish line? We're like, ooh, we kind of won the race, and we're like, oh yay, I'm here. And then, okay, now what's next? Right? So it's like, I get the new home, and then I want the new cabinet, and then I want the you know, like it could feel like it's never enough. Oh, then I got to fix the lights, and I like this when you kind of build a home from scratch, there's just so many details. And then that kind of that train and that thread can almost never end. And we can never fully receive, like, you know, when I was painting my walls, I'm like, oh, this kind of like, oh, wow, it's here. Yeah. And there are ramifications. That's the other thing, guys. When you're going for your vision, there are ramifications. And so, you know how they always say, like, the entrepreneurial journey or the spiritual path is not for the faint of heart. It takes courage, right? And there are ramifications. So, meaning to say, if you're going to go for something, sometimes you have to go and you have to stumble to get there, and you have to feel like you don't know what you're doing, because most of the time you don't, and you have to feel that fear and that the scariness and like, you know, all that. So what we're doing is we're taking all of those feelings, and the ones that I helped you guys kind of tune into, and you're taking them with you, both, and you're taking that expansive, exciting, joyful, peaceful, whatever it brings for you, feeling, and the I'm not enough, oh my God, this is such bullshit, oh my God, people are going to judge me. You're taking that along for the ride. And I think I did a whole training, I think was it last week? I did a whole training on this, where it's like we have to kind of shepherd both our survival needs and our thriving needs and our soul needs, right? Survival and soul, as long as you're human, are going to coexist. And on the spiritual path, the mistake we make is we think we're never going to feel greedy, or we're never going to feel selfish, we're never going to feel self-centered, we're never going to feel guilty, we're never going to feel the shame, we're never going to feel not enough, we're not going to feel doubt or confidence. All this, we think we're not going to, when we don't feel that, then we can go for what we want. But guess what? You will never go for what you want, because humans will feel those human things. And so then the soul, also the one that you only know to be true about your future self, we also need to make room for that. And that's why I did those two discerning feelings. Because the feeling of not enough and on is very well practiced. But for most of us, we intellectually understand the feeling of bliss, and sometimes we even get there in our practice. But it's almost like we kind of get the high and then we come back down, right? Instead of understanding, can I actually expand in this and receive it as it's coming? Because it will come in just like these small little moments that are not these spectacular moments that sometimes we think, you know, enlightenment or our self-realization is. Sometimes it's as simple as, I feel a sense of peace painting my wall, even though there's a shitload of work to do. Oh, it's here, it's arrived. And then just the willingness to take that in and open into that. Okay. So, eventually what starts to happen, this is point number 4, eventually what starts to happen is that your internal match the external. And the way we do that is we do it in baby steps. So that little secret voice inside of you that knows who your future self is, you take these little tiny baby steps towards that. Okay, so if you were to work with me, first of all, we'd get really crystal clear on who your dreamiest clients are, because sometimes we make the mistake of our trade or our expertise with who we want to work with. Because everyone, you know, there could be 1,000 meditation teachers, 1,000 energy workers, 1,000 coaches, 1,000, but you in particular have certain people that you you love collaborating with them. Yeah, it becomes this like spacious collaboration. The people that you know you work well with. Yeah. And some people that's like they work with deep trauma. Like one of my coach friends works with super deep sexual trauma. That's her thing. That's her jam. That's who she works with. You know, I have another coach who she works with people who are really trying to find their true voice and identity through branding, right? So that's her thing. She doesn't just do it from like a superficial, they go on to really understand who they are and who they're becoming, their future self, their future potential self. Yeah. So there are certain people that are your dreamiest clients, and I'll give you a hint. There are people who already come into your vortex. Okay, so look out for those, and guess what? They're a version of you. Based on your professional experience, based on your personal experience, and based on your client experience. Yeah. Okay. So you need to figure out your dreamiest clients, and that's what we do on a kind of very deep level. We really start to know our dreamiest clients on a subconscious level. Those inner kind of workings, and that's what the path of self-discovery is, that sometimes are not even clear to your own client. Okay, you start to get to know who they are. You also start to, in our program, learn what is your life-altering transformation. What is your life-altering transformation, right? Because again, sometimes we sell ourselves based on, I am a body worker, I am a Reiki master, I am a coach, financial coach, and we don't understand the actual transformation that we offer, right? So I switch you guys, we start to switch out of the paradigm of like, oh, just pay me for what everyone else thinks my expertise is worth, and just maybe based on my title, right? So what I teach you guys is to distill your expertise, all of your training, all of your professional training, all of your personal life training, all of your client training, and you distill that into a program that brings your client through that journey that okay, right? Sexual abuse, I know where you are, in that deep, dark place, and I can move you into a place where you can start to function and trust the world again and trust yourself again. Yeah. So understanding your life-altering transformation, and it's unique to everybody. And again, it's not based like, oh my God, everybody else is doing that, or they're doing it that way, so I can't. It's unique to you. Sometimes you develop something that is just the way you do it. That's it. Period. Because it's a synergy of everything and that's what most good teachers do, good guides do, is that they take everything they know and then they synergize it and then they transmit it from their own personal practice. Okay? So it's this matching the internal with the external. And the way we do that is we slowly start to take action, even along with that fear, and take small action. So one small action, for example, in like, let's say that money example, you were imagining the 2x, the 3x, the 4x. We're not going to jump to the 10x, okay? So that's where we can self-sabotage ourselves. Where it's like, oh my God, that's even just so ridiculous. That's not even attainable. No. We know where we're going, so let's just, do I want a 1.5 increase my what I charge because I feel like I'm undercharging, right? Do I want to do more of that thing I love, right? And it's from both places, where it's in your personal practice and in your professional practice. So one of the things, for example, in my personal practice is I love to dance. I love to work with Qigong and energy. And it's not necessarily something that I teach, but I love to do it, and it supports my business and my practice. It supports my coaching, but it also supports me in my own business, right? So two places where it's like you're going to implement an actual strategy that takes a physical change, and you're going to implement a spiritual practice. And this is how I always teach all my clients. There's always the spiritual practice that is going to hold the shift and the change. Yeah? So we're not just going to increase our prices just to increase the prices like we're a 15-year-old that just wants more money. We're going to increase the prices because we deeply understand the life-altering transformation we offer. We deeply understand that we know who we can help as an expert. So we start to claim and own our own expertise. And so that's how you begin to align your internal world with your external. It's just these little baby steps. And this is what I would help you if I were your coach. I would give you what do you need in your spiritual practice to hold this next outer limit, as we call it, this next, like, oh my God, this kind of scary, expanded place that I only know, you only know is to be true about your future self. And I'd help you, give you that spiritual direction, and based on what you've already know, and give you the next obvious action. Because here's where kind of like our ego will kind of mess us up. We think we have to do all of these things. Like maybe I have to redo my website. Maybe I have to get more training. Maybe I have to dress better. I don't know. Maybe I have to cut my hair. All this external stuff. When we need to know what's our next obvious action. And in business, what is your next obvious action that is going to gain you most profit? Most profit meaning to say it's going to pay your soul because you're going to feel most in alignment, and it's also going to pay your bank account. Okay? Because yes, we can work on our website for the next 10 years, but doesn't mean that's going to make you money. Right? Again, it's not about not making profit. Just because we want to make money, it's not about not wanting to make money. Does that make sense? So what you do, what I do, I will do it for the rest of my life, and I'm doing it for free right now. I'm coaching you guys. I will do it for the rest of my life, right? I know that. And at the same time, I know that my thriving, my highest potential self is willing and ready to receive the abundance that my expertise can offer, and the life transformative change it can offer those who are kind of struggling from having the thing they know inside of them, but they don't necessarily know how to bridge the gap into a viable business that is sustainable long-term, financially, emotionally, and energetically, and in the body, and in your life. Okay? So, let's recap. The title of today, Entrepreneurship, a Path to Self-Discovery. Step number 1, what do you want in your life, in your business? Based on what you've always known, you've always seen it, you've always felt it, you've always envisioned it, and based on what you only know your future self is to become. And in our training, in our practice, what we do is we continue to clear our mind, body, and energy so we can see that. We see it, but sometimes it's muffled, so muffled by the need to survive that we can't even, it's like as soon as it comes in, the need to survive right away talks. So it's kind of like if you ever heard somebody talk about their dream, like, oh yeah, I would love it if I could speak, in front of like thousands of people. Oh, but that's just ridiculous, right? It's like right away the survival is try to keep you safe from your actual the thriving and what the soul wants, that only what you know to be true. Because that's the thing, right? It's like you only know to be true, so it's kind of scary because you kind of, the other part questions, is it actually true? Right? Okay, so know what you want based on what you've always known and based on what you only know to be true about your future self. And the nuance is, if you know what you want, but then you see other people and you're like, that's what I want, but you're resentful, then you're still coming from that survival place, okay? That place that it's not willing to receive, versus, ooh, I want that. Ooh, yeah, one day. Oh, that would be, get curious. How do they do it? Oh my God. Let me go closer and see how they did that. Yeah. Okay. Become aware of your own blocks. Okay. So we did that with the money question, because why? Money is very much related. We have a lot of energy around money, and it's very much related to our survival needs and our thriving needs. So I wanted you to discern both. What is our survival needs, and how does it feel, and how does it feel when we're just in survival, and how does it feel when we're in thriving? Okay, it's really important to discern the two, because we can all of a sudden receive what it is we want financially or freedom wise or health wise, but we still see it through the window of that contracted body that is not able to receive what it is it wants. Yeah. Okay. And so I'll just give you a little example. I had a client. She's like, you know, I don't know why I can't do plank. And I said, well, I saw you do plank for 1 second, and so it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that you can do it for 1 second, right? And then next week it might be 2. Next week it might be 3. Next week it might be come back down to 1. So it's like, it's right there for her, but because it's such a flash, and it's like, she was like, oh, I don't know why I can't do it. Which wasn't true. It's like you can do it. You just are doing it for 1 second, And so it's this willingness to receive, and that's the thing. When we start to conjure up what we want, it comes in these little doses, and the more equals more. So the more we are like, ooh, the more we're going to allow it in. Yeah. Okay. And so we did that exercise where we 2x, 3x, 10x our income, just to feel what it feels like in that expansive, infinite possibility place. Okay. We also talked about envisioning, same topic with money, because it could either be money, love, or your health. But with money, it's like, since we're talking about entrepreneurship, I talked about how does it feel, right? And again, discern between the two, between the just getting by and the thriving. And how much are you receiving? Just so that when you do finally receive, let's say, that bigger paycheck, or that the thing that you've manifested, you're like, that expansive place, like, oh, here it is. That feels abundant. That feels like more freedom. That feels more spacious, right? That feels fulfilling. Yeah. I talked about how much, and you can do it 2 ways, where it's like you can have very specific numbers, or you can do it more than I can spend. So sometimes it's good to have like sometimes you can work your way up to more than I can spend, and it could just be like, okay, 1,000 more this month. Oh, okay. And then you just keep on increasing it. Okay. And continuing to match the internal with the external. And that's done again with your spiritual practice. So again, you start to play in I've talked about this a lot, your zone of genius, the thing that you love, the thing that has a potential to make you money, and the thing that puts you in the flow, right? So, like I said, I really I'm into dancing, into Tai Chi, and it doesn't necessarily mean that's the only thing I teach, but it is woven into my practice from both levels, from my own personal, I'm in the flow. So whenever I kind of do any writing or any kind of business strategy, it's steeping from that place, that zone of genius, that juicy place. And then from a business perspective, we want to do our next obvious action that is going to get you from here to there, right? So if you are like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm looking for the next client. So I have one client, and what I do with most of my clients is I ask them, when they're ready, okay, think of 1 to 5 people in your circle. After we figured out who their dreamiest client is, and after we figured out their life-altering transformation, I'm like, okay, so within your circle of 5, who would be your next, who would be your client, right? So we start going from our next obvious action. Because what people will do is all of a sudden they get the training, but then they feel like they need to take another training. They get the time, but then they don't have time, so they don't think they have time, so they're gonna put their time not necessarily where they want to go. Yeah. So very often when people are ready, the next obvious action is to approach those clients. And it's probably the most scariest thing, but that's, kind of what, if you're going to create a business. And that's a funny thing. It's like your business that you've always been dreaming of it's available to you now. And it's a lot closer than you think, especially if you went on this path for a while. Okay? And I was talking about, just like a next strategy can just simply be, play in your zone of genius, but also like, okay, yeah, maybe 10x is a little too like out there because your nervous system can't even it's like, that's not even true. I can't even imagine that. Then 1.5 it, right? And again, I think it's important to gain clarity on who you actually serve and your life altering transformation. Without those, if you're just charging for the money, you're kind of just like, I just want my money. And that's when it's kind of not in alignment. Okay. So it's sort of like if you go into a restaurant and somebody's charging us for a plate of food that they have handcrafted, delivered, created the recipe, and they've created an ambiance. They kind of know why they're charging what they're charging. Yeah. They're not just charging you just to charge you. So it's the same thing. Let me know if that makes sense. Okay, so that is our training for entrepreneurship, a path of self-discovery. Yeah? If you are willing to look at your demons, and if you are willing to have them collaborate with you, if you're willing to open your mind to only the thing that you know to be true, your secret future self, right? And this resonates with you, then DM me, let me know, Jamie, I'm ready for a breakthrough yoga coaching call. And on that call, what we're going to do is I'm going to send you an application. I'm going to read in between the lines and see, where is it you're stuck in your physical body, in your mind, and in your energy. We're going to get on the call and we're going to do what I call the 3-level clearing, where we're going to see the root of where this shame, where this blame, where this guilt is coming from. Because that is not the reason why we cannot do business, because other people are judging us. People are judging us all the time. I can wear a pair of shoes tomorrow and somebody's judging my shoes. It's not a reason for me not to wear shoes. Okay? So it's the same, right? Same in that practice of being able to be who you are in a room by yourself or a room of a million people who are watching you. Yeah? And so we're going to get to the root of the feelings that you don't want to feel and where they've imprinted in your body, mind, and energy. Because once we do that, then that's like the key to the lever that lets everything else kind of fade away so that we can actually move into our next obvious action. And that's what we do. We lay out the program so that we take care of the physical body. We take care and we make sure that the mind is clear. We take care and master our energy. We learn how to process emotion. And then on top of that spiritual house, then we begin to create, right? Based on your dreamiest clients, based on your transformation, based on learning how to market yourself in a way where you're simply sharing your experience. And so we have a structure of how do we structure that? Because, people can kind of talk out of the air, but like when you're marketing, there's a little bit of a format to that, right? A format that helps you speak to who you want to speak to from that depth that you have, only you have, yeah? And then shift you out of the paradigm of working dollar per hour and shift you into charging a premium. So learning how to charge for your expertise versus charging based on what the collective has decided for you. Yeah? Based on your life altering transformation. So I help people understand the premium model, the premium space, where you could charge thousands of dollars for what you do, because you fully understand the transformation you make, and you fully have worked out the journey you're going to take your clients through, your A to B. All right. So that's it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Let me know your biggest takeaways and your biggest insights. I want to hear them. Tag me in the comments so that if this is like months from now, I can come back and I can answer your questions, and that way we can begin the coaching journey, because that's where it starts. From out in the ether, when you write things down, that's how it begins. Okay? And that's how all, everyone that's worked with me, there was that willingness to kind of, just expose that thing that's inside of them, that truth that's inside of them. And when you have somebody a container that can hold that and continue to mirror back what it is your truth is, mirror back what your blocks are, and give you the next obvious action, that's how we start manifesting what it is we want in this world, based on what our heart truly wants. So that's what I want for you. I want you to be able to manifest what you truly want in your life and in your business. So DM me, let me know you're ready for a breakthrough yoga coaching call, and I will see you guys next week, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye guys, thanks.